In one sense, we're competitors because we're competing for the workforce, but that's a pretty narrow way to look at things. We've been in the chamber, or been in the industrial park since 1965, and we're pretty concerned about what's happened in the park with regard to garbage, upkeep, road conditions, signage, all of that. So we would really like to see that fixed. We don't really like it when guests come here because honestly, I was in India in February of last year, and the two look a lot the same in terms of the amount of garbage and the maintenance of things, which is really discouraging to me. And based on the amount of payroll and payroll tax that this park pumps into Mountaintop, you would think that we'd be able to look at this differently. So whether it's our own citizenship and cleaning up the roads, there's more trucks in the park than ever, and obviously the truckers don't have the same care for the park, but the employers in the park do have influence over the truckers to some degree. The other thing is, it's going back maybe 10 years, there was a $56 million referendum out to do a big expansion to Crestwood High School. And the local community flatly rejected the small increase in their taxes that would have been required to pay for it. And then I'm in the business of trying to recruit executives to work at our company, and they look at the quality of Crestwood and they say, I don't really want my kids going there, and are you going to pay me enough for my kids to go to some private school? And so I think all of us, Crestwood High School really is the future of this region, and if it's not really a gem, then we all stand to lose. So we have a very much a common interest in that. So we can be competitors on one level for employees, but we also share interests on a number of areas. So anyway, welcome to Cornell, and if ever you need something from us, don't hesitate to call me. My assistant Shirley has been here since forever. She can help you with anything too. But if you want help, we're into cleaning up the roads, trying to improve the park. If there's anything on your mind with regard to that, we're happy to talk about it. So welcome.
So as Andrew said, welcome everybody for being here. I want to personally thank Andrew for hosting us today, Shirley for you helping us set this up, and I still think you must have been 2 years old when you started here, way back when, we won't say when. A couple things is that we met with Andrew back in January, and from a lot of those conversations that we had with him, clearly there are some things that I would say strategically that we've done right, and I would say from a blocking and tackling perspective, there's a lot of areas that I think that we need to improve upon, and I think that's kind of the impetus for why we're doing this meeting today, and like to try and make this something of a I don't know how many times we're going to be doing this, but we need to do these more often, I think, and I don't think this is something that we've ever really done from a chamber perspective. But let me just circle back with these industrial parks. We have 5 industrial parks. Those 5 industrial parks really hit on what we were supposed to do way back 30, 40 years ago when these were coal-scarred lands that nobody really wanted, and we ended up turning them into industrial parks to today, to the tune of now hiring about 15,000 people, about 300 businesses in the 5 industrial parks, and as Andrew mentioned, bringing in about $10 million, by the way, of annual tax to the county, to the townships, and to the school districts, which I think is awesome from that perspective. But I would also say the same token that from a blocking and tackling perspective, I don't think we've done a really good job of doing some of the things that Andrew talked about in terms of potentially cleaning up the parks a little bit, getting the signages up to speed, and really looking for ways that we could go back to the businesses here and make sure that you want to stay here, make sure that you do want to that you do want to bring your customers over here, bring your business over here, and attract a solid workforce, and not do, especially since my former job before I came over here, I was Chief Operating Officer for Asia Pacific for a company called Diebold. So I ran India, so I kind of know what Andrew speaks about. You know, I will also say that from that meeting with Andrew, we got together as a team and talked about, gosh, are there some things that we could start to do to better engage with the industrial parks and make sure that we're doing what we need to do as a chamber to support you, to sustain you, and to keep you in the area. So with that in mind, you know, Joe Boylan and I spoke about this, and one of the things that he started looking to see is if there were any state programs that we might be able to utilize, you know, with what we're trying to do here in the industrial parks, and he found one, and it's called Engage, and we want to talk to you guys about that. Part of what that Engage offers is an opportunity to get what I would call, they call them vouchers, that we might be able to utilize to help improve on these industrial parks. And that's also why we want to kind of get some thoughts from you guys in terms of what you see and you know, what we need to do with the industrial parks and where we need to take this and move it forward. In addition to that, we've also kicked off something called Wilkes-Barre Connect, which I think has a tremendous platform for building an ecosystem in the valley over here, and one of our partners on that is Ben Franklin. And Ben Franklin, I think, Andrew, you probably know, you know, Ken, because I think you've taken advantage of one of the Ben Franklin programs that he has. But one of the things that we wanted to talk with you guys about is some of the things that Ken is doing, because I think that he can offer some opportunity there as well. But circling back to Joe Boylan, I really think that it makes a lot of sense for Joe to give you a sense of what we're doing with Engage, and then really look with you guys to see if there are some things, again, top of mind issues that we might want to take a look at in terms of the industrial parks. So with that in mind, Joe, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Rico. So first of all, I just want to echo everyone's comments and thanking everyone for being here today, coming out. Big thank you to Cole Creative as well for filming this. So for those who couldn't come, we'll have it posted online. And I'd like to point out, excited that Mike Marshall is here in the township and showing that support. I think that's crucial, as you'll see as we go through this presentation, of how we need to start forming better partnerships here. And this is
right. The last time I talked to you, I wasn't chairman, but now I'm chairman. So
yeah,
I'm a little bit more.
So with that, my role today, this is our fourth and final presentation for the Engage Community Halls that we've been hosting. My job today is to, one, explain to you what Engage is, and two, how it benefits you in the park as a whole. So that's the only 2 points I got to get through today, and we'll, as we've done in the other locations, really want this to be a dialogue. Feel free to post questions, offer comments as we go through this presentation. I want this to be as interactive as possible. I have a feeling some of the talking points we'll hit are very similar to what we've experienced in other parks as well. So looking forward to the dialogue. So first of all, I want to introduce the team. You've just met Wico, who addressed us. He's the president of the Wilkes-Barre Chamber. Lindsay Bezick in the back, who some of you have met, is the vice president of the chamber. Megan Flanagan, who is now taking an awkward picture of me, she's the communication and grant manager at the chamber. She's very critical in terms of the PR side of this, as you'll see, and myself representing the chamber as the former vice president of the organization. We also have, as we noted, several other chamber team members here, and really a part of the whole team that are helping put this program together. So thank you to everyone else who's here. So what is Engage? Engage is the state's answer, or the new terminology of what they term as a business retention and expansion program. All the programs we've learned to love over the years were always funded in direct line items to economic development organizations such as the Chamber to receive funding that essentially covered staff costs to go out and understand what the needs, the challenges, opportunities there were for our companies in our specific regions. And about 10 years ago, that funding went away. And as we'll talk about a little bit from the Chamber's perspective, that was probably at the worst time that could happen. And before I really get into what Engage is, I think it's important to note that We could probably spend all day here today talking about the faults of the chamber and how we haven't been who we needed to be, especially in this park. And we could point to a million different things. We could point to 2008. We could point to the fact that the organization went from 21 employees down to 2 when I was hired. So there are many factors, but I think at the end of the day, and what you'll see through this presentation, in my view, we could go out and talk to you all day. The problem was we had no tools in our toolbox. Any need or challenge that you had, we had no way to help you. And for us, we spent the better part of the past 4 years getting back up into that, as Wiko said, getting our position back at the table, more importantly, start to build the tools we needed in our toolbox to actually be impactful. And so you'll see this through the presentation of how right now with Engage, this is the perfect marriage of what we're doing. And back to Engage again, it's a basic business retention expansion program, really focused on retaining and expanding local businesses, key industry clusters, looking to encourage job growth, and provide technical assistance to local businesses. Many of you in the past probably have participated in a business retention and expansion program, and the most important thing to note is in the past where they were minimum 3-hour interviews where staff would come in with documents that answer, just ask question after question. This Engage program and how it's been designed, and really the narrative been pushed by economic development organizations, is we can't do that anymore. This has to be a discussion. Hit the basic points of what we need, find out what the challenges are, the opportunities, and deliver. So that's really the beauty of Engage right now, that we've had discussions with businesses that have taken 15 minutes. That's all we needed. This is my issue, solve it, that's it. Perfect. And we go on our way. So that's the beauty of Engage. It's no longer this 4-hour marathon of question after question. So that is Engage. Rolled out in February, and we are one of the participants across the Commonwealth that receive funding to move forward. So how is our process? How are we moving forward? How are we rolling this out? We were awarded funding in February. It was reduced, significantly reduced of what we felt was a number that we needed. So we needed to be creative, and I think it's a credit to Lindsay and the staff at the Chamber. We really integrated the direction of the Chamber of Commerce side of utilizing technology and really pushing together different programs that we could be more impactful with less. So the first thing we talked about is hosting these town halls, and not only having live in person, but also recording with Cole Creative, where businesses can go online and view the content to become educated on the program. We felt this was an effective way, where we see a lot of our members and our businesses consuming information. We thought it was a perfect way to start to educate the masses what our target audience is for this program. So what we do is we have these town halls, and the focus is after these events, we reach back out. Lauren's done a great job of working schedules and pulling everything together. Reach out to find time where we could sit down with you and to go through the Engage process. Again, in the past, it was in person, minimum 3-hour block of time. Now, if necessary, we could Skype, we could do it over the phone, whatever works for you. We would love to be in person, but if there are other opportunities that work best with your schedule, we're willing to work in that way. And that essentially leads to that interview that I talked about. We do have a basic framework of what Engage is looking to collect. Again, it really focuses on what are your needs, what are your challenges, what are your opportunities. That's the baseline. How we can identify what those items are, and then from our standpoint, and what you'll see as we go through the presentation, finally being able to put together an action plan with the resources that you need to get where the goal is you have set during our interview. So, any questions on the process itself? Anybody? No? Okay. So what are we collecting? As I talked about, it's basic business opportunity, business information, your future outlook of the region, opportunities and challenges we talk about. Obviously, workforce is always the #1 issue that comes up when we're talking industrial parks. But what is different from the process or the application we put forward, because each economic development organization had their ability to put their own spin on it, right? And for us, we felt this bottom line was critical to the overall process we wanted to undertake. We not only wanted to know what your challenges were internally for your company, we want to know your assessment of the parks. how can we improve? And we know in this park we've got a lot of improvement we've got to make, okay? But for us, it felt like the perfect way to get the groups together. I know the township has done a good job of trying to pull that together as well, so we feel that the chamber now has the ability and the willingness to help pull all this together, because the most important thing is not only can we talk about what needs to be done here globally in terms of the park, we've got resources to address them. And I think that is a critical piece, whether it's from the chamber, willing to commit funding that we need, but also the state has identified some funding for us that we could utilize. So during the engaged interviews that will participate and hopefully some of the dialogue today, we could start to flush out whether it's the broadband issues, whether it's cleaning up the park, whether it's infrastructure needs, whatever it is, that we could have that dialogue so we could start to get a better handle on what we can do to improve this park and can actually put the action plan and identify the resources to do that. So that's what separates us from some of the other programs that EDOs are pushing across the state with Engage. So what can we expect? Essentially, again, we'll do a needs assessment during the Engage process that we then take that information, we put it into this crazy Commonwealth database system that we've got to put in. But we take your needs, we build an action plan of how we can accomplish the goals that you've set out for us, and we make the necessary referrals, and more importantly, provide you resources to get that done. Whether it's specific trainings you may need for your workforce, we could put some dollars up with that to get that done. Whether it's different public funding opportunities that are out there, opportunities with Ben Franklin, which we'll bring up in a second. That's the key point to this, that we're not just collecting information, we're actually putting together action plans and making referrals to get what we set out to accomplish. So how we actually deliver that, and I think that's the critical thing, and I think this goes back to my earlier point about not having tools in the toolbox. This is, I mean, it's serious. When Wico hired me almost 4 years ago, I was the second full-time employee in the organization, and he was the other one. So we had our work cut out for us. We had a million different things that we needed to get right and straighten out the ship. And I think one of the first things we discussed was, from the economic development standpoint, an organization that in that department had 9 full-time employees. Now I'm, by myself, and then eventually brought Megan on to join the party. How can we be impactful with limited resources, limited staff? And the first thing and the easiest solution was to build partnerships. We had tremendous partners that we had already done a tremendous amount of work with, and we seized that opportunity to build Wilkes-Barre Connect. And Wilkes-Barre Connect, essentially run and powered by the Wilkes-Barre Chamber, includes Wilkes University with their Small Business Development Center, the Alan P. Kirby Center for Free Enterprise and Entrepreneurship, the Institute for Public Policy and Economic Development, and the Family Business Alliance, and then also partnering with the Diamond City Partnership, Larry Newman, and Kenneth Krepke, who's here today with Ben Franklin. And the focus, or the goal of that group, was to start to have a better communication component and deliver a platform where it was easier for businesses to push their needs out to us. And for us internally to review those needs and to work together to ensure that everybody got where they needed to go. Too often, we had businesses slip through the cracks that maybe Ben Franklin was shutting down the Small Business Development Center, or back to the Chamber. Now, as we work in one program in Wilkes-Barre Connect, we view all the companies in real time, can make assessments as we go, and ensure they're getting to the places they need to go. And through Connect, we've handled everything from opening a local barbershop of someone who came through, to dealing with an international manufacturer looking to relocate in North America. So this unit, this group, is critical to how we see the future of economic development, incentives and programs being run through the Wilkes-Barre Chamber. And in addition, before I bring up Ken, the other resource is PREP. PREP is the regional entity or regional body for economic development organizations. We partner with, whether it's Scranton or Hazleton, our Wayne and Pike counties, our partners that through all of the resources and the staff that we have can pull together to identify different resources and programs and trainings that businesses need to grow in the region. So These two programs, Prep and Connect, are finally the tools that we need to deliver for your needs, and I think that's critical. And I think at this point, I just want to bring up Ken and to talk a little bit about Connect and what Ben Franklin can offer in terms of the partnership.
Yeah, first of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. I applaud the Greater Wilkes-Barre Chamber of Commerce for doing what they're doing right now to support your organizations and your companies because of the tax base that they provide to our communities and the employees that you employ are the fabric of our community. So their level of commitment to help make your organizations more efficient and stronger, I think, is one to be applauded. As it relates to Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Northeastern Pennsylvania, we're happy to be a partner of Wilkes-Barre Connect. For those of you that aren't familiar, we've been around since 1983, supporting manufacturing firms in a variety of different ways. Really think of us to support your organizations in one of two ways, and I'd ask you, are either of these two things happening within your organization? Number one, are you launching a new product or making a product better within your facility so that you can either address new markets or become more efficient as you deliver that product? That'd be number one. Or number two, are you trying to become more efficient in your manufacturing processes within your facility? And if you're doing either one of those two things, Ben Franklin Technology Partners could be of value to your organization. We happen to have two organizations here in the front row that we've worked with over the years. Right now we have a project with Cornell Cookson that is on the product development side, where we brought a resource from Wilkes University to help them develop a new product that will be a part of their offering. And as Fairchild Semiconductor, formerly Fairchild, now On Semiconductor, when they moved from their 6-inch fab to their 8-inch fab, we were an integral part of engaging Lehigh University and the University of Scranton to help make that transition. So we can be supportive of either of those two processes. Other companies within our footprint that we've worked with or are working with include A. Rifkin and Intermetro, and right now we have a project with McCarthy Tire. So the idea is what are you trying to accomplish, and can we bring a resource? I essentially have access to any of the college and universities here in Northeastern Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to bring that resource to your firm. Traditionally, they're industrial engineers, or there's people who have a specific level of expertise. So for example, in the Intermetro project, they coat metals as they make products to storage units. And so we went to Penn State University to identify a coatings expert that's internationally recognized to then support their efforts as they did an evaluation of how they coat the products that they make. And what the way our projects work is very simple. You direct me and say, this is the project we have, here's the expertise we would like you to bring to us, and then I can pay for 50% of that project as a grant, and it's a one-to-one cash grant opportunity. So I'm here very simply to say we're supportive of the Greater Wilkes-Barre Chamber of Commerce and what they're trying to do to engage the partners that are within each of the business parks here within their footprint. And Ben Franklin is a resource that's available to each and every one of your companies. And in some cases, for the people here in the room, we've been supportive of your efforts already. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have as we get done, and I'll stick around to have any further dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. And I think what's critical to point out, and as Ken had mentioned, some of you have worked with him before, the thing that I love most about Connect is it's essentially our Avengers. We've got some of the best and the brightest in the area, and to once a month sit in that room and watch everyone brainstorm and come up with concepts, ideas of how we can start to address not only the short-term issues but long-term strategies as well. It's fantastic, and I think one of the main things, and you'll see there's literature back there on the Connect program. When it first launched, it was a simple online platform just to capture businesses, capture their needs, and make sure that we were getting them to where they needed to be. And from that point, we've continued to evolve, and I've identified issues that required long-term solutions. And what we've done since its launch about 18 months ago, we've built 5 sub-programs underneath Connect to start to address some of those issues. First is Intern. Intern is our online regional platform to better connect businesses with our local students. It's really our focus of how we could start to keep our internships here. I always tell the story that it really stems from Berkshire Hathaway Guard in downtown Wilkes-Barre, billion-dollar company. 75% of their interns were coming from either New Jersey or New York, and that was disheartening when they had Kings and Wilkes literally a stone's throw away from them. So they not only helped us build this program, they've actually financially supported it to launch it, and we're excited that in April we finally launched Intern. 101 is a partnership with Dorothy Lane and the SBDC. We were essentially building an on-demand video library for basic business fundamentals. We're partnering with folks such as Don Berminski from UGI to talk about utilities. I believe Wells Fargo is talking about some financial stuff. Dorothy's got at least a 3-part video up there now, and the whole focus is to help provide that on-demand culture that we have now of businesses and small business able to access needs right online for what we can offer. Pitch has really been spearheaded by Ken and Ben Franklin. It's our kind of version of Shark Tank, so to speak. It provides a platform for startups and entrepreneurs to access capital in our region. We've had 3 events. They've been very successful. Looking forward to the 4th upcoming. Spotlight is our version of TED Talks, where we provide essentially an opportunity for students to meet entrepreneurs and young professionals in the region. And Honor, which just kicked off in April, it's a program geared towards helping veterans and their spouses launch businesses. We partnered with the SBA and the SBDC on that. We had a tremendous turnout and excited where Honor is going. So those were 5 programs we saw an immediate need for. But the 6th that's always been circled there, and I think it's not been formalized yet, is how we can start to work together to address the workforce issue. We've started to put together a lot of, I think there's some short-term stuff that we can start to do, but long-term, Ken and I literally just talked a half hour ago in the back of the room about different programs and projects we have geared towards the K through 12 and how we can start to better align that with some of the strategies we have and making that long-term play. So Connect, again, we're very proud of it. It's been very successful for the organization, but it's finally the tools that we needed to actually provide value back to our members, and I think that's critical moving forward. So with that, how we can participate, there are some forms that we've learned how that you can fill out. You can contact us by phone, you can email, we can go right online where we've got Engage listed on our Connect website. Any way that we could interact to ensure that we could find a way to have a few moments of your time to identify what your needs and challenges are moving forward. And with that is my presentation. I hope there can be some dialogue here. I know Rico always kicks the dialogue off with something, but at this point, any comments or questions or anything about the program itself or the Chamber or Ben Franklin, feel free to jump in.
Maybe a little more on pitch. Tell us about some of the companies that you've gotten out of that already. The startups.
Pitch? Yeah, we've Pitch has been very successful. I think it was too often than not we'd come across an entrepreneur or a startup where Ken was just running ragged of trying to make the connections, and it seemed like every time he would get one, there was another one in the queue. And for us, Pitch was just a platform to start to capture them. We had this last round 3 weeks ago. We had some interesting presentation. The first time ever, we actually had a high school student present, and he was a junior. He wasn't even a senior. He's building, if you want to say, like a security system for AI and it's just incredible response. Yeah, so the response we've gotten and the traction we've got, we're excited for Pitch is going.
Yeah, I can just throw in the way that Pitch program, so the way people raise capital now in northeastern Pennsylvania, you have access to Ben Franklin, because my other hat is I'm an early stage seed investor, but then you have angel investors that are all throughout the region. And the challenge is for those entrepreneurs, to get access to those angels, you need to know someone who knows them. And so what we're trying to do is flip that model a little bit to say, listen, if we can have a deal flow of early stage companies that present at Pitch, then angel investors can come. And if they're interested in having a dialogue with that individual, they can. And if not, then they can move on. But it gives the individual who has a good idea access to the money and the talent that's here in northeastern Pennsylvania. So other companies that have presented, a gentleman in downtown Wilkes-Barre called Christian Wireless has a company called Plan Guru. It is a forecasting and budgeting tool that can be used for a company the size of Cornell Cookson here, or for an entrepreneur who has 4 or 5 people. And it's budgeting, forecasting, and it's all done through the cloud. But a product, he has thousands of customers across the globe. But he moved from Westchester, New York to Wilkes-Barre because he wanted to be part of the group that's here in northeastern Pennsylvania growing. And then the other company is Channel 8, a company in Scranton that has a platform for e-commerce companies to sell across multiple platforms, Shopify, Amazon, etc. So he has a tool that manages your warehouse, and all of the platforms to sell the product front-facing to customers. And it makes that easy, and he has global customers as well. So we've got companies that are raising money and growing, but we've had some success out of just a couple of meetings or presentations at Pitch.
And I think that whether it's pitch or intern or honor, whatever it is, the whole process is building a more streamlined process for folks to become engaged for what we can offer and the services we can finally deliver and the resources we have at our disposal. I mean, something just as, some of you have used different public funding streams available to the Chamber in the past. Well, 4 years ago, we weren't certified anymore. And it was a uphill battle, and it got recertified. We became active, and now we've got a portfolio of 15 million of public funding, I think, being pushed through right now, and whether it's RCAP or multimodal or different formats or another PETA that's coming through. So we have become very active in identifying public funding sources and securing those resources for our members. So again, it's all about engaging with companies and putting together a streamlined process where we could have a better communication channel to identify where your needs are and then finally actually execute on our.
And I think that's a really good point. What Joe just said is, 4 years ago, we kind of lost all of our certifications, and now we've got them back. So really what we want to make sure that we do is to reach out to you guys to say, hey, look, we now have an opportunity through our industrial fund to help potentially as you're starting to look at your businesses, growing your businesses, how can we help you to get grants, et cetera, et cetera. The other piece too, to me, that really kind of engages or connects into this is that Wilkes-Barre Connect program, because really what that is for us is it's a living, breathing business ecosystem that we're developing. Starting from a supply chain, I'm a supply chain guy. I mean, from a supply chain, look at your workforce. How do we get interns, if you will, to stay in there? How do you get your college students to stay in the area? From where we are right now, you're within, literally an hour of 50,000 college students, 17 universities, and frankly, six of them right here in this county. And yet, when a survey came out with them, about 2 or 3 years ago, asking, are there jobs in the area? Can we stay in the area? Only 23% of them, 20% of them said that they thought that they could, actually stay in the area. So that's bad. You've got 50. That's intellectual property, brain talent that's going out of this area. We want to figure out how do you retain them and keep them over here. So getting that connection with your organizations, by the way, makes a lot of sense. If you're looking for interns, engineers, for example, I mean, with Wilkes is doing with their expansion of their engineering schools, with what King's is doing as well. We think now we've got a really good, pool of people now that we can start to say, hey guys, if you want to take advantage of these interns that are out there, you get them for a semester in your organization, and if they're really good, you hire them. And actually, that was kind of our third, fourth hire. Megan is was an intern that worked for us with Penn State, and she did such a great job on that grant side, and especially with her marketing side as well. We hired her, and it's been a great hire. I mean, Ben, the same thing. As an intern came on board, we did the same thing with him. And I think that becomes kind of critical in what we're trying to do. Same thing with honor. I mean, a lot of the manufacturers in the area, if you think about it, the veterans are probably some of the best skilled trained people in the country. I mean, they've that military training background that really, to me, is kind of an untapped area that because we've got a lot of veterans that live in this area, and that's a way to get some access to that. That becomes absolutely critical. From a funding perspective, we just talked about Ben Franklin, what we're doing with Pitch, to get some of the funding. But I would tell you that this ecosystem that we're developing is really a business life cycle management system. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a pizza shop in South Wilkes-Barre, or if you're, whoever you are, wherever you are in that stage of your life cycle, we're really looking to try and tap you into that Connect program to get you access to things, and that's one of the key pieces.
Yeah, and we're not creating something new. All the pieces existed. For us, it was just aligning them and putting them in the right direction. And I think that was critical. And I think a perfect example of what Connect can do American Paper Bag, who hosted us in the Hanover Industrial Park just a few weeks ago. He was a gentleman from Europe looking to had exclusivity to manufacture a specialty paper bag in North America. He was looking at different locations. He was coming through and was right at the critical juncture where we were just forming Connect. And as he came through, Ken and I said, yeah, absolutely, come in, we'll talk to him. And at that point, he was in 7 states. He was looking in Canada as well. He was actually coming through to go down to Allentown and came in through Wilkes-Barre. And we sat down with him on a Friday morning. And next thing you know, I'm driving him up, showing him Harvey's Lake on Saturday afternoon. And lo and behold, he comes here. But he was someone who needed everything. He needed to understand how to operate in the U.S. He needed R&D funding, where Ben Franklin came in. He needed to build the basic business plan components that he needed, with the SBDC was a huge component. He needed to secure financing, which came through the chamber, in addition to what Ben Franklin was willing to offer. And now he's found his location, he's up and running, and now we're in the process of working on his workforce position as well. But everything that he needed was available in Connect, and it's a powerful statement when he says, hey, I was in California, I was up in Detroit, I was in New York, even down in Allentown, and nobody could compare to what Connect offered me. It was at one single point of contact. Every question I had, every need I had, it was immediately delivered to me. So I think that is where Connect has that traction, because it effectively aligns all of our partners into one location, pointing in the right direction to say, we're here to help. Let's get moving. Tell us what your needs are, and we're going to execute. So really, really proud of Connect and where it's going.
And how do you get into Connect? Why don't you tell them?
Yeah, Connect is wilkesbarreconnect.org is our main site, and it takes you right through. Right in the beginning, it talks about let's get started. You click on that, and the beauty of Connect, again, trying to streamline process, make things as business friendly as possible. There's an intake form that you fill out. It takes literally 2 minutes to complete. Here's my name, here's my company, here are my needs. And you just check boxes and hit submit, and within 24 hours, you'll hear Terry Ohms is our main partner from the Institute, who handles all the client management side. Terry builds that strategy and comes back to you within 24 hours and says, here's what we see, here are the needs you've identified, here's the pathway we set for you, here's the connections we're going to make, and here's how we're going to accomplish it. So it's a very smooth process. It's been very effective. As Wico said, we've helped the barber shop and the pizza shop open, to dealing with a manufacturer from Italy, which just in a couple of weeks ago looking at this area, comes through Connect, and we can start to provide the resources they need. So it helps all types of businesses, all types of industries.
Now, the other thing, maybe if you don't mind, goes through, we just did, just so that you guys all know, a regional survey of not just all of our members, but also in Scranton as well, with the Scranton Chamber of Commerce, a joint survey. Why don't you go through a little bit about what that told us, to just see if that's what you guys are seeing as well, to get that discussion going, because we just want to make sure that you guys know what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing, we could throw a lot of stuff out there. If you haven't seen it online, we've got, it talks about some minimum wage, it talks about business climate in the area. I think really, Andrew, you brought it up, it's workforce. That is the issue. And the availability and the quality of really starting to rate that, and it's just kind of stuck in the middle. But I think one of the things we talked about are what were some of the barriers to the workforce here, and it's just training. It's soft skills. It's training. Easily, just things that we can accomplish easily by working together. And that's, again, the discussion Ken and I had in the back of really, we've down through Connect have done a great job of engaging our higher ends. I think we've got that down, whether it's through Ben Franklin or whether it's through Wilkes University and one of their platforms. Penn State has been a big supporter of what we're doing. We've got that down. The problem is we're missing the K through 12, and that connection is not there to start to address the long-term strategy. So we've got some things in the works, whether it's different educational programs to institute, pushing the YES program more, a program with computer science and engineering through Microsoft, starting to integrate different programs that are actually going to meet the needs of our the workforce needs we have here. And I think that's been the focus, and It's going to take us a while to get there, but I feel confident now that with the momentum of Connect and the right partners at the table, we're going to start to finally address the long-term issue. Short term, we keep battling as much as we can. And in our Hanover, you talked about engineers. That was a big thing that came up in our Hanover talk of, hey, I need engineers, interns, hires, and I can't find anybody. And I said, well, that's terrible to say because Kings and Wilkes are investing about $20 million in upgrading their engineering program. So I made a direct connection with them, and they're off and running. So I think in the short term, we could do what's necessary, but the ultimate goal is to build a long-term strategy to start to address the issues.
And here's one of the things out of that survey that I thought was kind of interesting was, this kind of goes back to the whole workforce pieces. Here's the good news, 64% I think of respondents said that they're hiring people, they brought in new people over the past 12 months.
68% of the
68%.
respondents added or grew in terms of.
And I think the other response to that was, I think the majority of them said that the quality of the folks that they're getting is good. So that's probably good news. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. But that it was hard to get them, right? I think
Yeah, good from where it was. I still think we're kind of average in terms of how we rate our quality of workforce. The availability is becoming a little more difficult. But again, the thing that sticks out are soft skills and specific training. Things that we could easily accomplish, with the partners that we have. We've got to build the right vehicle for it, and I think we've got the framework for it, and that's going to be key.
And then the other thing that was interesting about that is, you look at the national unemployment rate now, it's 3.9. We're at 5.1 in this area, which still is not great, but I will tell you what, this is the best it's been since 2007, I think. So that's a good thing. But here's the issue. We've got basically, 3 million square foot of business space that's coming online within the next 18 months. That's going to have a dramatic, there's I think the number is now at 3,500 jobs that are coming online within the next 18 months. So you're going to see, a lot more competition going on here. That's the bad news. And so we're trying to get in front of it a little bit. I will tell you that, from this meeting, we're all going to send you an invite if you haven't seen it already from Lauren. There's a transportation summit roundtable that's coming up at Benco Dental over in the Center Point Industrial Park. We actually partnered with the region, all the regional chambers in the area, as well as also the Institute to really make sure that its numbers generated. And we partnered up with the Philadelphia Federal Reserve Bank to take a look at transportation specifically. And of course, what we found from that is that three issues from a public transportation perspective. One is issue with how you get to work. Two is how do you get to health care, and three is how do you get to daycare. Because a lot of folks around here don't have cars, as you can imagine. So, and of course, I know one of the issues that's here in this area is you do not have public transportation in Crestwood. You do in Hanover Industrial Estates, you do in Highland, you do in Center Point, but you do not in this area. I would think that would be an issue for you guys, and I would encourage you to come to this roundtable that we're having with businesses from all the industrial parks, as well as both of the chambers that we're going to have on this. So,
and I think it's that's why we have Engage. So Engage is the platform to express those needs. If you've got transportation issues with your workforce, including what is some of the issues you face in the park itself, but particular to your business. So that's where we've got this opportunity to capture those needs and start to put that into how we're starting to build these programs around building long-term solutions to some of the major issues we have, with transportation being a major issue as well, workforce again. And I think, again, that it's so important and critical to understand that we have the right pieces. Having Terry Ohms and the Institute for Public Policy being our client and data management side of Connect is so critical, because as we're integrating her into the K-12 model about building career pathway models, we've got the Institute, who's rooted in data and research, that is identifying and seeing the immediate needs of business and able to marry that with building the long-term solutions and the career pathways in our K through 12. So, information is powerful, data is powerful, and she will have access to help shape and build the programs around the long-term solution. So we're taking the right steps and understand that we've still got a long way ahead, but we're excited to say that we've got the right partners, we've got the right resources, and we're here to help.
And then the other thing I wanted to do is circle back to Andrew's point. I met with Andrew back in January. Here's the good news, bad news. Andrew was saying, gosh, it was the first time a chamber person came into his office to say hello and see how he's doing. And he's been a member since, what did you say, 1965. That's bad, by the way. I don't consider that, but and especially I've been here for 3 years, but I should have come a lot sooner than that. However, as Joe mentioned, we didn't really have any. We would come over, but we didn't necessarily have deliverables for you. And what I wanted to also circle back is while you're seeing, I think we're doing some of the higher end pieces and getting some of those programs. From a blocking and tackling perspective, we know that there are issues in this park. I mean, from that conversation we had in January, I literally got a phone call like 3 weeks after that from somebody from Crestwood saying, I almost lost my car in a pothole, in one of the roads over here. So, I work with Dave Bedry and county roads to make sure that at least those big potholes got filled. But I know, as you pointed out, because I've been to Mumbai and other places in India too. I mean, sometimes, in some ways, you're right. I mean, some of this, it's not where it should be, and we are trying to get in front of that. I would also tell you one of the things that we're thinking about doing is organizing a park cleanup day. And don't know yet when we're going to do that. I want to work with you guys on that, but maybe we have the chamber help sponsor that and see if we can get volunteers from the businesses to help us, at least go to the side of the road, pick up some of the trash, et cetera. And we're thinking about doing that with all of them. So we are starting to look at some of those blocking and tackling pieces. But the other piece that Joe was able to find from Engage is that there's also these vouchers that we have accessibility to potentially. And so if you let us know what some of those things are, there's two of them, but I still want to make sure we hear it from you, to see if some of those things are weak.
Yeah, that's the part of Engage. It's critical to get the feedback from the businesses in the parks, not only what we can help you specifically with, but in terms of the overall park. Broadband continues to be an issue here, and how we can finally identify some resources, start to make informed decisions and help to solve some of the issues here. So it's critical that we understand what your needs are through Engage. Again, it's a simple process. We'll walk you through, and that's it. I mean, in terms of the value of Engage.
So let's reach out to you guys. I mean, what are you seeing as top line issues that you have that we should record, take advantage of, and see what we can do to help out? Any comments, thoughts? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I work for I2M. I bet you all the other guys that are working for companies around here have the same problem we have, and that's hiring good people that hang around. And we have people walking in the door at noontime, they're gone. and so, my question is, what can you guys do to help us retain, find good workers? One of the thoughts that I had was, when I first came out here, I worked for the Tops Company. And the Tops Company, we were using a guy down in Dallas, Texas for printing. I got to know the guy pretty well. And one of the things he hired was people who spoke no English. But as part of his company, he taught those people how to speak English. And once they learned to speak English well, guess what? They disappeared. They left. And I said, wow, why would you waste all that time and effort teaching these guys English if they're just going to disappear? And he says, hey, it was the right thing to do. But more importantly, when somebody left who because they could speak English and got a higher paying job, there were 5 more people waiting to take his spot. But he had no problem hiring good people because of his teaching English. And so, what caught my eye this morning was, similar to that, was Walmart workers get college first. Walmart's out there with their money saying, we're going to educate people. And so I'm wondering if there's a way we can do that here where we can set up and either for people who don't have a high school education, get them a GED degree, or for those who have a GED, is there a way that we could bring in once a week, a professor from Luzerne County Community College to teach people so they can get a BS degree eventually? So, yeah, I mean, we can all complain about the potholes in the roads and we got all that. The bigger issue for us is just how can we hire, retain good employees?
I could throw in just a couple of thoughts here. So I was with a company in northeastern Pennsylvania early last week, and they said, you know, we had a policy that we would only hire English-speaking workers. And he said, we're changing that policy now so that we can bring entry-level employees in, and they converted some of their manuals and some of their training documents to be able to add entry-level employees. But they said, what we're now going to do is add an ESL program so that when an employee comes to us that doesn't have the English-speaking skills that they need to then move into the management level skills, we'll give them that skill set so that then they can grow within our organization as well. And he said, it's really because of the competitive nature of the workforce we need to do this. So, you know, coincidentally, Lackawanna and Luzerne County Community College will be partners. One of them will be partners with this organization to put a system in place so that they can continue to add the workforce. Because otherwise, they look 4 to 5 years down the road, saying it's going to be very, very complicated for them to grow at the level that they need to grow. So they're going to be a little bit innovative and creative along those lines. The other piece I would say is on a smaller level to the workforce. You know, in the case of Cornell Cookson, the project that we had here, it's driven by a faculty member or they're driven by industrial engineers. So the deliverable, the actionable item, we make sure that gets delivered on, but we try to engage students where we can. So in the case of that project, they engage students from Wilkes University to do some of the, I don't want to say less menial tasks, but more time-consuming tasks, either to collect data or run numbers or manage information. And now what's happened is they offered 2 of those students a position, and I think a third will come on and be employed. So a project that had a very specific task to help a product move along, one of the ancillary benefits was a number of employees from Wilkes University, and we've got other success stories from Lehigh as well, where we can engage the students as part of those projects. So I think there are some models that are working to try to attract talent and keep talent within the organizations that could be applicable here.
Well, and there's no better example than CVS Caremark in Hanover. When they had an opportunity to come here, the workforce wasn't existing. So what happened? We got Wilkes together to put together the pharmacy program, and the community college added some pharmacy capabilities as well to meet that demand. And boom, they hired, and they've been successful since, I want to say, late 90s. They came in, like 1996 maybe. But the point being that when we have to move, we've shown an ability to be able to build that academic and industry partnership. I feel like we've just kind of strayed away from that, and I think that is the key moving forward. And I think the connective piece is Connect in the chamber of how we could start to better connect industry and our academic partners to look at issues like retaining workforce.
Yeah, I think the other thing, in the plastics industry, you know, Griner and Pittston created an apprenticeship program associated with Luzerne County Community College. So I think the college and university marketplace is ripe for partnership opportunities. So if you come with a very specific need, I think the challenge is in the olden days, they wouldn't react because if you said, hey, I need 6 people, they're not going to change a whole program for 6 people. But if you say, we need 6 every year, and now we'll help you to identify the students who would then become employees and put essentially create a pipeline to your organization. I think those partnerships between community colleges and Johnson colleges and Wilkes, depending on what the need is, as you create a pipeline of those students into your organization and formalize the structure, it becomes a feeder for your organizations. And ultimately, that's what the folks at Griner believe. That's why they set up the program at Luzerne County Community College.
And I think to your point though too is that when we start to collect all this data from a number of you know, we might see 6 here, 3 there, 8 there, 10 there. Then you end up getting some, if you will, economies of scale for them to want to do something about it. I mean, a perfect example really is, I mean, you know, the biggest industry in NEPA is healthcare. There's 50,000 people in that healthcare industry, and you know that's actually the impetus for a lot of the nursing programs and now all the physical therapy programs that a lot of these colleges are picking up on because they're getting snapped up right away. As in fact, there's still a shortage in Geisinger and Commonwealth of that. So at least we know that pipeline is translating a little bit better. And so I mean, if you've got those type of situations, please let us know so that we can aggregate.
And I think in the long term, that's the critical play on the K through 12. I think
It's identifying opportunities that are available here in our region to students at that early age. I think they're not engaged to them or introduced to them, and so we're not necessarily aligning our workforce needs with the education component in our public schools, specifically in Luzerne County. So I think we're trying to change that a little bit to understand the data and where our trends are going in terms of workforce and industry here, and align that with our career pathway models. But it's got to start in the K through 12.
And Joe, maybe a little more on what we're doing with K through 12, because I mean, some of the things that you're doing in the Think Center, that we're doing in the Think Center, and with the Luzerne, LIU.
Yeah, no, it goes back to the discussion with Ken. I mean, when we built the Think Center, which is a 6,000 square foot media and technology center in our innovation center in South Main Street in Wilkes-Barre, one of the focuses was we wanted to ensure that schools knew it was their playground, whether it's K through 12 or higher ed. We wanted students there. So we've hosted everything from the Girl Scouts for their entrepreneurial badges they do, to a coding camp for girls, grades 4th, 5th, and 6th. Any opportunity we have to engage students there. Megan ran a great event with Penn State University called Break the Barrier, from which that high school student I mentioned earlier from Pitch actually attended and learned about Connect and came through the system. So everything we can to start to outreach and engage our students, understand that there is opportunity here. There's amazing companies here. It's just a matter of making them aware of that. We haven't done a good job of that in the past, and Connect is part of the function is trying to do that. So we continue to engage, and the partnership with LIU goes back to the discussion with Ken and I in terms of building a system. The biggest barrier we saw, there are some effective programs out there, whether it's the YES program or this Microsoft Teals program, or what TechBridge is doing with their high school level programs. There are great things, great programs that exist out there, Junior Achievement and BizTown, for limited money, limited dollars to get these students through the program, yet school districts still aren't putting the resources forward to allow the students to engage in these programs. So our solution is essentially saying, we're going to find the resources and take that argument off the table. Now you've got to implement. And so that's the model we've gone down. We are close in December to coming to that point where we feel, as we identify more partners going through the fall, that we're going to have a good chunk of resources we need to not only build a good K through 12 career pathway model, but have it be sustainable for years to come.
Yeah, and it's not expensive. We're talking about less than $500,000 to essentially give students a pathway. So if I'm interested in IT, or I'm interested in being an entrepreneur, or I'm interested in manufacturing, whatever the opportunity might be that's a good fit for that individual, for less than $500,000, we could provide the resources that
Every student in Luzerne County.
Every student in Luzerne County. So that the idea is it provides that workforce that's queued up to be part of a path, right? And it's not everyone has to go to a four-year school, or we have to figure out where they fit. It's that, listen, here are the pieces. It supplements what's happening within the school districts, and then you have a pipeline that's built for the workforce that you need for the future.
And Terry Ohms, again, from the Institute, is a key in that, because she's helping the schools and the LIU start to build the reporting mechanism and the database for how we start to monitor the career pathway models in our K through 12 schools in Luzerne County. But now she's got access to all this data of the real-time issues. So at any point, as we see a tweak in workforce or a change in trends, that we could start to make those appropriate changes. I think about the Microsoft Teals program and the computer science and engineering side. They offer about 7 different programs that can be implemented into high school students. So we could always tweak where we need on the fly, so we can make that immediate change. My favorite analogy is, in the past, whenever a business had a need, by the time that need came to the chamber and we then talked to an academic institution, it was 2 years later and that company was in New Jersey already. And we're trying to solve that issue, that in real time we can start to address issues.
Well, and also all the college board, all the college presidents, by the way, are on our board within the chamber. So I mean, any comments that you have, we certainly feed it up through them as well. But the one I wanted to talk about is Tom Leary and what he's done with LCCC. If you look at his programming that he's done over there, is a lot of his, if you will, graduates aren't necessarily college graduates. Really, they're certification graduates. He's spending a lot more time on the skills-based stuff, with certifications. I mean, he's got, as you can imagine, lots of trucking around here. He's got even just an automotive technology, and literally, driving trucks getting those certifications that you need over there. So that's also translated into that as well. But we will make sure that we take that comment that you had and start to take we are looking at it, as you can imagine, but really at least say that we've got somebody that's interested in us focusing on that. Are there other things? We, by the way, help answer a little bit of your question on that, by the way.
So,
Any other questions, any other thoughts, any other comments?
I guess, I talked about the education, you're talking pretty much college grads. Do I need some help there? Yeah, we got an older workforce that's going to retire. We're going to have holes to fill. That's true, but I also need guys who are going to work.
Right.
And I think that transportation piece, getting them here, I would say from your perspective, for you guys over here, again, is see what we can do potentially with LCTA, to see if they can put this on the route.
Yeah, this isn't the only business park that has that challenge, and I think now there's a spotlight being put on a variety of different parks to say, how do we get the data that validates the effective utilization and then move people who may be in poverty out of poverty because you give them an opportunity for a job. Maybe they're qualified people who just can't get here. And I think this isn't the only business park that has that challenge. So.
Well, that's the problem with Mountaintop. I mean, we get most of our employees from Hazelton and Wilkes-Barre, so we're 10 miles south and we're 10 miles north. And I mean, if they find a job comparable salary closer to Hazelton or Wilkes-Barre, they're going to say, why am I going to drive them back and forth to Mountaintop? You know what I mean?
And transportation is definitely a factor in the issues that we have with the workforce. And we work 12-hour shifts as well, so it's 8:30 to 8:30. So even if there was transportation, I don't know whether it would, be operational in the hours that we needed it as well.
And that's been the challenge. I mean, if you're familiar with the Grimes Industrial Park in Pittston, I'm trying to think the last stop was at like 5. So if you work second or third shift, you may have an opportunity to get dropped off. You had no way to get home, but by the way, they only drop you off at the entrance of the park. So if you work at FedEx, it's about 2.5 miles straight uphill. And who's going to take that position? So that just things like that. But as Ken pointed out, there's so much data that we're trying to collect. So we've been working about how that's done. What's the organization that does that, so we can better coordinate schedules? Because I know.
When is that meeting?
It's
June 12th.
June 12th. Thank you. June 12th, but we will be sure to send you a copy.
Okay.
A copy of that so that you have access to that.
When we do like follow up to everyone to schedule an appointment from today, when we do the one-on-ones, if anyone is going to do that, we'll also send an invite for the transportation meeting. So we'd love to meet with everyone on the one-on-one from this and address your specific needs, and then also we'll send out the invite.
Yeah, it's 7:30.
7:30 a.m. at Bedco Dental.
Breakfast meeting, yeah, so it really starts, I think, at 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but breakfast starts at 7:30. The other thing that frankly we found talking about that industrial park is, no sidewalks. So what ends up happening is that when it snows and you've got those big mountains of snow, I mean, they got to walk on the street with all the trucks, et cetera, to get to where they need to get to. And there's no bus shelter. So one of the things that we did find out is that there are some grants for getting bus shelters too that we're looking at working with LCT and that. So there's a couple of things that just from those conversations.
Well, maybe if some of the plants could just do their own transportation, like I know some entrepreneurs out in Hazelton were running van service, but I mean, they were sort of gouging their patrons, they'll bring them back and forth, I mean, it was costing them an arm and a leg, so they'd look for a closer job, but I don't know, if you look around the country, I mean, every morning at a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something, contractors go and they pick up people and they're like day workers. I mean, they just gather there and they go down there, they pick them up, they take them for a day, they pay them a day's wage. And
well, as you can imagine, I mean, when the Federal Reserve was doing their study, they've got a couple of case studies, and that's one of them. And frankly, one of the ones that's starting to do that locally here is Chewy. they've got now, I think they're up to 1,000 people working at that facility over Hanover Industrial Estates, and they've got their own private bus service that goes, you know, in that intermodal in Wilkes-Barre to pick people up and bring them back into their shift, so.
Right, well, the way I learned about it, my daughter went to school in Washington DC, and then I went to Home Depot, and I see all these guys standing there, and contractors come in the morning, and they say, well, I need 3 people for day labor at so-and-so price, and they pick them up and they take it, you know, I mean, that would be something to look into in Mountaintop, because, I mean, we just don't have the low-income housing in this area. I mean, houses are 150,000 and up, and most of our employees come from Hazleton or Wilkes-Barre.
I think with that, we're approaching the 1 o'clock hour, so.
Yeah, Andrew, was there any other thoughts that you had?
No, just listening to it all, you know, we have similar issues. It's a concern, especially the number of jobs coming into the area.
Excuse me, signage and cleanliness of the park, that's definitely a concern of ours as well. We're a high-tech company, and, you know, the direct labor, maybe not as critical for them, but we're bringing in individuals, trying to recruit them. You know, they just look at I know 2 years ago, I had a candidate come in and said I was going to turn around because it looked like the industrial park was abandoned. The weeds and trees that weren't planted were higher than the sign and covered, and you know, it's a big issue, especially when you're trying to recruit executives or you know, highly technical people who have options to go anywhere else. And it really spans beyond the industrial park as well. So, you know, our shopping areas, even, you know, down by the arena and stuff like that. I know it's cleaned up a little bit now, but that used to be beautiful. It was landscape nice and flowers, and then it was garbage bags and old dead flowers there, I think, for like a year and a half. And, you know, we have people come and look at the area, and not the greatest.
Yep, no, I understand.
We actually have some people who come, they'll take a position and they'll actually live and commute from the Lehigh Valley area.
He's right about that. As I have 3 children of my own, and none of them live around here. I mean, they live all over the country. But I mean, when I talk to them, most of the younger people are looking for the amenities. I mean, they'll take a job that pays less if there's more amenities that they like. So I mean, a lot of places like Mountaintop, I know a lot of people complain because it's the same hoagie pizza and everything else. I mean, if you can get something new and to keep the younger generation here, I mean, they've been more likely to come to this area.
And there are things to do too, so maybe we need to do a better job of highlighting activities and things to do in the area. You know, they're probably not promoted as well as they could be. They're not as vast as they are in other areas, but they're probably not promoted as well either.
We're starting to do a little bit better job of packaging and attracting, you know, businesses to the area that you could do the same thing relative to, you know, attracting employees to the area. And I'd also tell you, maybe we should make sure you get a copy of this too, is that, you know, Rob Miracle just came out with a Discover NEPA piece that really is meant to be looking at, you know, what the attraction, he's got maps in there of attraction points and, you know, what to do, as well as how to get involved, as well as if you're moving in the area, here are some of the key metrics and things like that. We've got that on our website as well, but we'll give you access to that too, so that might be something that you might want to use with folks coming into the area. So you can take a look at this Discover NEPA piece, because it's actually quite good.
Your point actually came up in our discussion at Highland Park, which was our first one, namely the arena area. And we had some hotels there. The arena hosted us, and it was in that same vein of let's start to do a better job of making sure it's clean, it's bright, and it's inviting this area. But more importantly, how can we work together to better market the region? And their slant was on recruiting more, whether it's statewide tournaments at the arena or different acts to come through, that they wanted to partner together in some fashion. It was kind of an offset of Discover NEPA, but start to promote the area better. So again, through Engage, we're hoping that we have these discussions, and now we're starting to put the action plans together for them to actually deliver them resources and partnerships to actually execute on that.
Well, thank you everybody so much for taking time, and thank you so much, Andrew, for hosting us.